Hi, this is Dave again at TitleSearch.com and AFX Title. I can guarantee you it's 100% certain that your property, or the one you're looking at, does not have a free and clear title. Well, how can I be so sure? Well, one of the things that people look at on a clear title is, does the property have liens? Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Even if your property does not have liens, there are many other reasons why it's not technically a free and clear title. First of all, remember that a mortgage is a lien. It's a voluntary lien, but it's a form of a lien. So if you have a mortgage on your property, that's technically not a free and clear property. Beyond that, I'm sure that's not what you're thinking of when in terms of a free and clear title is being mentioned. Now, there's another area of property restriction that's often overlooked. What about zoning? If you have a residential property that can only be used for certain things, that does not make that property free and clear to be used for anything you want. Well, Dave, that's not what I was thinking about either. Okay. What about easements? On that property, it's very likely that there are easements from utility companies. It may be from government agencies for ingress and egress. There may be a sidewalk. There may even be easements for adjacent property owners to use for an overhang of a deck or for some other reason. Those easements are technically an encumbrance on the property. You as a property owner want to know about every single one of those. We'll get to that a little bit later, why that's important. If you don't know all of them, you may be at risk later of one of those easements becoming a permanent claim on your property, maybe even reducing the size of your property. So it's important to know all of them. Even if you're not sure, it might be worth checking after the fact. Property taxes are a form of a cloud on title. Even if your property taxes aren't due until the end of the year, throughout the year they accumulate and become due on that property. Until they're paid, they are technically a cloud on title because you can't walk away from those. Those will encumber the property until they're paid. If they're paid on January 1st, guess what? January 2nd, there's property taxes due for 2 days, and that becomes a cloud on the title. It won't be showing up as a lien or some type of an encumbrance, but technically it's part of the property responsibilities. Second of all, there may be mechanics liens. These can be implied even if the mechanic does not, or the contractor does not put a lien on the property. In almost every state, if a service provider, somebody who does work on your house, even somebody who delivers materials to work on your house, is not paid in a timely manner, they automatically get a lien on your property even if they don't file a piece of paper. So anybody who's done work on your property, going back the statutory time period, in some cases it's a year, has a mechanic's lien on your house. Even if they're paid, you have to prove that you pay them sufficiently to clear that off. So keep that in mind too. If you have a homeowners association where you live, that HOA encumbers all the properties in that development by this HOA master documents, and it may be 100 or 200 page, phone book size document that gives all the specifics of what kind of cars you can park in the driveway, what color you can paint your house, whether or not you can have pets, whether or not you can rent the property. Those are encumbrances on the property. It doesn't make it free and clear. You can't use the property any way you want. So you want to make sure you know all of those as well. Can you put up a satellite dish? Can you hang something in your window? More importantly, can you do things that's going to affect your life the way that you want to live your life in that development? There may be other deed restrictions on properties even outside homeowners associations. There may be restrictions on how big you can build, what the setbacks are. Can you build right up to the property line, or do you need a 10 or 20 foot setback? Technically, those are encumbrances on the title that need to be aware of. Are there permits either required on a property or that are still open on a property? If you've done work to a property and not pulled the appropriate permits, those might be encumbrances and liabilities down the road. For example, in some cities you can't change an electrical outlet without actually pulling a permit on the property. You want to know the work you're doing, is it required a permit, and if so, that you get one. Sometimes the prior repairs can be grandfathered, but you want to make sure that you're aware of that. Are there encroachments? And this gets back to the easements. Are there neighbors' structures encroaching on your land? It could be a fence that's over the line. It could be an overhang. It may be a driveway that paves over part of your property. And if those exist and they're not specified in an easement, at some point those may become permanent restrictions on your land because the prior or the adjacent owner might get those rights through adverse possession. So you want to make sure that if there are encroachments, you know where they are and you do things to mitigate those. The biggest lack of free and clear title is the city or county or state has rights under eminent domain to use that property for whatever is for the good of the community. If they decide they want to put a railroad through that development or a highway, they could take your property, pay you what they think is fair market value, and own the property. So there's a dozen or so examples of items which are examples of not having a free and clear title. I know that most people think of free and clear title as does it have liens or not, but you want to know what other things could affect use of a property. Some of them may not apply to you, but look, if you buy a property and have the intention of putting a swimming pool in the backyard and don't know there's an easement for a power line underground right where that pool's going to go, that might really affect your use of that property. By the same token, if you want to use it for a home-based business and maybe operate a import-export company out of your basement, it may turn out that in that area of the county or in that incorporated city, they don't allow home-based businesses of more than so many square feet. You want to know that prior to making a decision to own a property. So free and clear of liens is one thing. That's the easy part. Anybody can look that up. You want to know if the property meets your needs or doesn't have other encumbrances that might get in the way of your specific use, and it's different for anybody.